Okay, I think we're live. Can someone in the chat room, again, we start this the same every time, any podcast I've seen for College Survivor. Someone in the chat tell me if we're live. Thank you. I think we are. Can someone in the chat room, again, we start the podcast I've seen for College Survivors. I hear myself echoing. Okay, you know what?
We're
good. Looks like we're good. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Survivor Time and Change Merge episode recap. So I'm really excited to break down everything with you guys. We got a lot to talk about, 7 episodes worth, and a lot more predictions and whatnot with what's to come. But I have a panel of people here that I want to introduce first. So first off, I'm going to have Aaron introduce himself since he's a part of the STC family. Aaron, go on ahead.
Okay, so my name is Aaron Schifrin. I was the director of the show for the first 3 seasons. I actually did a test season before Survivor Time and Change was ever a thing because Greg and I kind of found Survivor Maryland at about the same time, and we decided we want to do something like this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes production stuff, and we'll talk about whatever Maryland wants to talk about. We're gonna have fun.
Cool. And then I'll give all you guys, you can figure out your own order. I don't care. But the only thing I ask is, Anders, you're not going first. That's all. Thank you.
Swale.
Sure.
You're up.
Okay, I get to go first. All right. I'm Swale from Survivor Maryland Season 6 New Beginnings. I played Season 6, and I helped Anders following those seasons. And I'm here to recap with Ohio State Honors Defend. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Swale. Anyone else?
I'm Chris. I'm from Season 2 and Season 5, which is All Stars of Maryland. Currently in law school, which is cool, but here to have a good time.
Awesome.
Does that mean me? I am Austin Trupp. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Well, Anders was supposed to go last, right?
Go.
Okay, so I'm Austin Trupp. I was the host of Survivor Maryland from season 1 through 5. Whatever, that's old news, right? Also, I hope everyone was being attentive because did you all count the number of words Aaron used in his introduction?
What up? I'm Anders. I'm the current host of Survivor Maryland season 6 through 10. I liked your joke, Austin.
You didn't answer my question.
No, I didn't pay attention. I never do.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're not being attentive. Unbelievable. Greg, can we kick this
As
guy
a
out?
punishment, now Greg has to read out the idol clues. And he actually has to give the idol to someone. It's punishment. So, what up? It's your boy. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
Not my boy.
Great start, as always. So, really excited to have you
Greg,
guys.
how did you see Anders on the Survivor Michigan recap and decide that you should have him on another recap?
You know, I think I've been on maybe 2 or 3 with Anders now. I did one for him season 2. God, I don't know. Just
Look, you can't deny it. I have strong feelings, and I'll let you know about it. I also want to give a disclaimer before we start, okay? My opinions are just a little bit dramatic. They're not personal, but they are strong, and I will say them.
Perfect. That's what we love to hear because a lot of people, when they come on these podcasts, like a lot of the players are going to be in the chat, and they know that. Good disclaimer to throw out there. Anders doesn't hate you as people. He's, we as hosts, like we're just breaking it down, and we're very critical about gameplay behind the scenes anyways during the season. It's like this is just normal banter. This isn't like, I'm ready to have some fun with it though. So
I hate them as people, so.
Okay, perfect.
That's another good disclaimer.
Yeah. All right, so let's get started here. So again, excited to have you guys here to bring some of the Survivor Maryland perspective in, and also just like an outsider's perspective, because like I said, Aaron and I were here in real time when this is all happening, and so I'm really excited to just hear what you guys think of it. So start out like general reactions of not only this episode. I think if you want to talk about the episode specifically, go for it. But if you want to maybe focus on the first 7 episodes too, that works. But I don't care who starts. Go right ahead.
All right. I may have been born in June, but my favorite season is autumn. Yo, Queen. Can't wait for her to kill another player I hate. These past 2 episodes have made me so happy. Goodbye, Mitch. Goodbye, Nick. Don't need you anymore. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Autumn is queen.
We're itching to say that.
I was so happy to see Mitch gone and to see Nick gone. It was like it was their show. I hate it.
I'll agree with that. I thought that Autumn was maybe she missed the move early in the game, so I wasn't the biggest fan of her. But the past 2 weeks, she has been the queen. She has been crushing it. 100% supporting her with you.
Yeah, for sure. And at the start, there were players that I was rooting for that, oh my gosh, they didn't make it through. And I feel like Autumn was going, dwindling down. Maybe she may not even make it to merge, but really happy, especially setting up into, I guess, the actual merge this time around. Autumn, I'm sure happy that Nick is gone now. So I think definitely sitting in a power position.
I mean, for me, I was really excited to watch Survivor Time and Change season 2, and I'm really excited for season 3 because the whole pre-merge, I feel like we're like in a total reset phase between Nick leaving, Mitch leaving. Like, I have full behind the scenes making of the sausage alert, but Greg had us try to do power rankings, and I had literally no idea. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen going forward. So I feel like we're at a really interesting reset point where I could try to predict things, but maybe Anders knows everything that's going to happen, but I do not.
No idea.
So I think with that, like, one of the more interesting parts of this pre-merge too, and you guys hit on it, is almost like a factory reset going into the merge here, because you saw the critical people that were like, and especially strategically in the game. You see Nick, you see Mitch, you see a lot of these people who are in the center. Spencer, like, is someone that was running a lot of, like, there's these people that just get knocked out by players that maybe aren't seen as much, and I think that was intentional as the person who edited it. And so I think it's really, really cool to see that, and I'm glad you guys picked up on that. But let's talk about some of those big moments pre-merge. If we want to focus on episode 7 right now, we can do that. But I think a really good thing to start out with is Nick. What happens now? Nick's gone. Nick was the center of attention for a lot of people in the game wanting to align with him. What happens now?
God, something better, hopefully. I mean, like, to me, no offense, I hated Nick. He was always like, well, we're doing this. I'm in charge. Let me tell you about what's going on with me. And it's like, I'm so fucking bored. Like, I still don't know anything about what Brooke and Alex want to do. Because it was always like, well, they're just following someone else, so they're always that. It's just like, to me, Nick had too much of a control on this game. And even if he didn't actually, he had too much say in everything. So in this episode, we saw Stephanie playing more of her own game. And I feel like we were robbed of that for 6 episodes because Nick had to talk about his game, which she was involved in, but he was in charge of. Now that he's gone, everyone else has more agency in what they're going to do. They're not constrained to be with Nick, make moves for Nick. That might affect Nick.
Well, I think one of the big themes of the season is that, and we kind of saw it from the very beginning with episode 1, where the first person I can remember whose name was thrown out was Kelly, because she stepped away from the path once. And I feel like that kind of sums up the way this cast is kind of operating, where if you stand out, the first second that you stand out from the crowd, you're gone. Like, between Simon was in a clear minority, that was an obvious one. Raphael wanted to lead, he was gone. Regan was outspoken. She kind of really fell out of good graces there. Kaki in the first episode, she was kind of talkative and she didn't really fit in like everybody else. Autumn was this big personality and she almost she basically got out except for saving herself with an idol. We have this kind of, Nick is really the final stretch where all these people who have really stood out at all, as soon as people pick up on that, they're gone. And so it's really interesting to me where I don't even think the tribe lines matter. Maybe they'll play a role at the merge, but all the people who are leading those sides and those alliances are all gone. Nick is gone. Mitch is gone. I mean, there isn't anybody who was really in charge who's left. And so there's all these pieces of scattered around that somebody's going to have to pick up. So I think this first episode is going to be really interesting to see who does pick up those pieces.
And to that point, I think Jake was also someone who stuck out, but he has somehow survived every single time it could have been him, which is incredible because he's had no power. And I think this might be finally a time where Jake can have control. He can be the one leading something instead of just being the extra vote they need. Even in the 6, they were like, well, I guess Jake. Thank God that 6 is dead. I was so tired of hearing about the 6. Every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, they had to bring up the 6, even though nothing ever happened with it. Goodbye.
That's a good point. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just going to say that 5 could still be a group. Just because Nick's gone doesn't mean that entire alliance is going to crumble.
I don't see it.
Well, I can see like Stephanie playing a major role, and I can see the remaining, I guess, 4 of all girls. I mean, the girls and Jake and Stephanie playing a kind of a role and seeing how that goes. But to go back on Nick, I think as so much to say about Nick, but he at the start he pushed a lot of like the strategy ahead. He was already thinking numbers. The 5 out of the 8, and he was pushing the 6 out. And the majority for merge. So he was really pushing ahead in terms of strategy, and I think sometimes it challenged the players to start thinking further than what they need to. And at least he was there enough to push some strategy agenda for future games and make people think about further in their game, and kind of maybe challenge him, which was what we saw happen.
Well, go, Chris.
Go ahead.
No, go. I forgot my point.
I was just gonna say, going back to something that Andrew said earlier, he was talking about the move that Stephanie made on Nick. I didn't like that move for her, and I didn't like. I guess you don't see the whole thing; you only see the confessionals. To me, I saw someone that looked flustered. She looked like she had no idea what she wanted to do. She looked like she didn't want to vote Nick, and it was just something she thought like, "Oh, maybe this is what I'm going to do to save me." And maybe that's what it was. Maybe she would have been voted out if she didn't make that move. And if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But to me, it came off flustered, and that's not, in my opinion, the best idea going forward for her.
I think this episode, she talked about in the episode where it's like on one side of her, she really wants to work with Autumn, but she knows that would go against what Nick would want and his big alliance. But I don't think she had the choice of who should go home. I think it really was in that moment Kelly, because Kelly had 3 votes, and she was saying, vote Nick or we'll vote you or something like that. And I think, honestly, this might have been a good move for Stephanie just because I don't see that 6 working totally out for her. I see them getting rid of Autumn, removing any sort of alternate group for Stephanie to go to. And I just do see her being targeted eventually once Nick is also targeted. I think she was getting too close to Nick and being tied to whatever Nick does, I have to do. And I think that now that Nick's gone, no one's anchored to anything. The only real alliances that exist are Greg and Allison, and then Kelly and her girls.
Yeah, but who is going to trust her at this point? That group of 6, no one left is going to fully trust her. I'm pretty sure Brooke and Alex and Kelly have said multiple times that they wanted her out. I just don't see where she goes from here.
I don't know if I
disagree.
I don't know if I
agree. Let me tell you, because I think I think she was being shielded by Nick to play the game that she wants, but I think it's not that they're going to target her. I think the girls, Alex, Kelly, and whoever else, they're going to try to reel her in. Brooke, yeah, reel her in.
Did they want to though? I thought they wanted her out.
They did, but I think they feel like they gain strength to target a Greg and a Allison and people on the opposite side where they rather work with her. I think in the live tribal council that we saw, as most recent, I think they told her to turn against Nick, and that's what they made her. That's what happened. So I think they're building trust with her that now Nick is gone. And then I think this opened all her options to work with Autumn and what Autumn wants to do. I think Stephanie's an emotional player. Does she think it all the way? No, but I think she accidentally made a better choice by taking out Nick. And I think Autumn is a good player, but I think she's an even better player when she's a duo with Stephanie.
I think I agree with Swale, especially because, I think maybe short term it puts Stephanie a little bit more out there on the radar, but long term, her entire game has been, the story and her game, I think, has been told through Autumn's lens or Nick's lens, and it's never been her with any autonomy. And so I think A, she does build trust with the other girls here, and B, I think it whether it's to herself or the rest of the game or what, it makes her a potential influencer, I think, and in a season that definitely needs that going forward. I think Stephanie is probably the one with maybe the most potential to kind of spearhead things going forward. Obviously, that could mean she just gets out next week and it's a really hard flop, but I think with the tie with Autumn, that'll become a lot stronger at the merge. And there's definitely a potential that we just see all the girls kind of come together. But I don't know if that will happen, but I think it's a possibility with those two.
I think it's also,
sorry, go ahead.
I think it's also just interesting. Mitch and Nick were kind of mirrors of each other in this game. On one tribe, one was sort of the narrator and the one making the big moves, and then on the other tribe, it was the other one. And the fact that they're both gone, like we said, it's a factory reset, but it also gives all that extra screen time, which they completely dominated, to the players who I feel like we don't really know what they're going to do. You saw in this episode the whole chart that Autumn and Stephanie made. And you saw that Allison was only known as like a number for Greg and for Mitch. I'd love to see Allison, now that she has an idol clue, now that she is a little bit more free to be doing her own moves. Same with Brooke and with Alex. Like, those two have only existed basically as Kelly numbers. And I feel like the two of them can make their own moves. I think now that it's the merge, there are 9 of them left, and there's no one basically controlling how the game will go. Gives them a lot more autonomy to not just be to be Kelly's underlings, to make their own moves, go outside of the girl group, because they've just been stuck together this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about that chart though, like even if the Stephanie move like seemed flustered, it seemed like she didn't really know what was going on. Like, we're not sure where she's positioned now, right? But I think you have to at least give her some credit, because she and Autumn formulated this plan to get out Nick if it was a merge at 10. And then like everything got blown up, and Stephanie still managed to engineer this basically the same thing, like in a completely different situation. So I
don't think that Stephanie engineered Nick getting voted out.
I agree.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you know, right? Like that's the whole thing without the strategizing beforehand. It could have been any of them. I don't know. Is there a production answer of like who really did drive that?
I mean, Kelly, Brooke, and Alex were going to vote together regardless, weren't they?
Fact.
So I don't think that Stephanie really had an impact on that.
But were they voting Nick before, or were they voting Stephanie? I don't know what they were doing. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, go ahead. Throw in production.
So going into the vote, from our understanding, it was 3-3. We had Kelly, Brooke, and Alex, and then you had Nick, Stephanie, and Jake.
Mm-hmm.
In Tribal, that went to shit. All of it went to shit. And because of the discussion that Stephanie and Autumn had beforehand, that idea was in their head, right? And kind of what Aaron was saying, where they had this idea that if they got to 10, this was the move they were going to make. They were going to pull in Kelly, Brooke, and Alex and have a 5, have the others split their votes 3-2, and then it would be 5-3-2, Nick goes home. That was the plan. However, what ended up happening is Stephanie had to make that move a step early, and in Tribal, you see the whispers and everything. So Stephanie is whispering to Kelly, and this is something that you do kind of get explained in the next episode. Stephanie is whispering to Kelly.
Tease.
Yes. So saying,
but the 3-3 didn't include Nick, right? He was not a vote option going in.
No.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Stephanie that was getting voted out.
So that's
right?
why I'm saying, even though the other 3 were voting together, Chris, like they weren't going in with that idea.
Stephanie and Kelly were going to be the 2 who were getting votes. As far as we knew on production going into this Tribal, it was Stephanie and Kelly, and then everything went to shit when Stephanie whispered to Kelly saying, "I know everything about your game" via Nick.
And I think that was the smartest thing to do.
Oh yeah.
I think they explained it, and I think Autumn has an amazing read on this game. I really do think that she could win it all, just because the way that she was able to create a lie in episode 6, and then also be able to read the other players, find the inconsistencies, to then know, okay, I should play my idol. It was like, she's incredible, and it really sucks, in my opinion, that like she's kind of been shafted this whole game by her allies, by everyone. They just sort of like throw her to the sidelines. They don't totally trust her. Like, she is never someone's first choice to be in the alliance with, despite her being such an incredibly strategic and intelligent player. The only person who like I think fully trusts her is Stephanie, and it's like they just haven't had an opportunity to work together. I just think people are.
I like Autumn, but I disagree with that. I think she had the chance to make the move the second episode with Jake and
Simon.
Or Mitch then, or not Nick, Mitch or Greg then, and she chose not to make that move, and it kind of hurt her down the line.
Oh, totally.
I don't think that's people throwing her to the side. I think that she just missed an opportunity.
Are you talking about this?
I don't think.
He's talking
Say that
about
again?
episode 2.
Oh, there was one. She had a chance early and then more recently. But
yeah, I forget the guy's name. Jake's closest ally.
Oh, Raphael.
Yeah, Raphael. She had the chance to make the move then, and she chose not to. And then her closest ally got voted out the next week because of it.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely like mistakes Autumn has made. Like, I don't think she's fully sensed kind of like the bro fest that was going on between Mitch and Greg and Nick and them. But like, I think that is not mutually exclusive from her having good reads. Like, we've seen from our eyes, like the omniscient perspective of Nick running the show the whole time and making all the cross alliances and whatever. And the only people, and I feel like this says a lot because at least for me, like my favorite 2 players have been Autumn and Jake. And I think that's true for a lot of people. They're the only 2 who first picked up on Nick being sketchy. We heard that both this episode, and it's like we don't deserve them having like the only accurate read on this game. They really are speaking for the audience, which is really cool. I also wanted to say that the whole whiteboard scene was like, I know it was called Survivor 101, but I was very confused, and I thought it was like Survivor 401. I think
I understood it.
It was very simple.
Be brief.
What? Well, here's the thing about Autumn. I think Autumn, she has her shortcomings. I think, as much as she may be able to, have the pulse of the game, I think when it's time to bite, when it's time to, make the move, she hasn't done that. And I think that's why, for Autumn's games, Stephanie's crucial, because when they come together, I think they're a lot better. And that's why when I saw that board, I was like, wait, I did not know they were thinking that far into the game. I would expect that from Nick maybe, but although they were doing very well socially, I did not know they came together to draw it out that far into 10, 9, 8 until going into 6.
But Nick got so complacent. Like, I think it worked so easily. I mean, he hadn't really done anything because he hadn't been to tribal, but like in his head, everything was working well. There was never a setback or anything. And because he got so, especially by this episode, so cocky in his lies. Like what was the one he made where he was like, I've never talked to Kelly? That was absurd. Like, how do you ever claim that 7 weeks into the game on being with the tribe with the same person? Number one. Number two, what was with his like hatred of Kelly the whole season, where she had no reason not to trust him, and he was just like, every week I have to get Kelly out. Like, on the one hand, he wants us to think he's like this long-term strategist. On the other hand, he can't see past his like eyelids because he's like so focused in the short term on getting this one person out. That like really blew my mind. It was like this weird dichotomy of someone who was so strategic but like so like small-minded too.
Well, I think that scene was incredible because you have Autumn, who is a really good liar. I mean, she made up a lie about Jake to Greg and Mitch, and they just believed it, despite having worked with Jake. Despite the ability to talk to him, they're like, "Yo, this must be true. Like, we got to do something about it." And then Autumn is able to suss out immediately Nick's terrible line. Also, I just want to point out, like, it's so crazy to me that these players talk to each other and then tell each other everything, and they're just like, "This will never come back to bite me." It's like they're so sloppy with it too. Like, so quickly people could suss out that Mitch was telling Nick everything, including the idol clues. So quickly, everything Kelly was saying would come to Stephanie via Nick. It's like, I think Nick and Mitch felt very confident to Austin's point, and I think they really were just like saying whatever and didn't think it would matter because no one would go against them.
I at least thought Mitch's was more justified in that, like, you make moves and you like in Old School Survivor, some of the moves he made are awful. I don't think you can question some of them in terms of gaining trust, but he was building trust back and he just got outplayed.
Oh, totally.
Mitch's had gained credence, and maybe Nick had like the like Tan Dang syndrome, where if you don't go to tribal, you lose the ability to like have any sort of like real understanding of what's going on. I don't know.
Can we talk about, hold on, can we go back to like, what was it, episode 3, where Mitch in the tribe group me spills 2 episodes? I remember watching that and just being like, how do these play, like, are they stupid? Is he an idiot? Come on. And then nothing happened to him because of it. I mean, everyone was like, okay, Mitch is untrustworthy, but it's like, oh my God, that was horrible. Truly, the worst kind of blunder he could have made in that moment. Just like, it immediately told everyone who his target was and that he's untrustworthy in conversation. It's just like, I'm in shock that he didn't get.
It's not his fault. It's just something about Mitch's in College Survivor. They're really bad at texting the right people. Just trust me.
God,
it's never aligned with a Mitch.
Like on Survivor Michigan, when I saw that, I died because I knew that our second episode, this was going to happen. And it was so poetic. It was great. And yes, I think that's a move that I don't know if nothing really happened because of it, Anders, to your point. We do see that gets brought up by Autumn later on. So Autumn says, like, he's just such a sloppy player. Everything he does, like, it's just dumb, and he doesn't have any control over, like, who he tells things to. He tells Nick everything, and, like, that was something that probably factored into the decision too, right?
But you have to admit, like, in the real time, like, we were all shocked that there wasn't like more repercussions like right away. Like everybody on crew was like, all right, what's going on? Like, Mitch is out, right? And then he lasted like a few more votes. Like, so I mean, it wasn't nothing. Maybe it wasn't nothing that happened, but like even in real time too, like we were pretty shocked that it like went by so easily.
Well, can I ask a question on that for you two, for Aaron and Greg? Like, I'm wondering because from what I know from like some of the preseason stuff and from Greg's casting in general, like I feel like there probably are a lot of super fans on this season, and you kind of see it in like the the rites of passage kind of thing that we had, whatever the Survivor Premier Day thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we think that like super fans have a more aggressive style of play, or they have all this bank of knowledge. But what was like to answer your point about the Mitch thing, like I think I was surprised too, but it goes in line with like people not wanting to really stand out or make a move early or really push things and lead their own way. So I'm wondering if like at least in the pre-merge, if a lot of the players were like saying intentionally, I don't want to make moves, I don't want to make ripples, or it was more of like they just kind of were less present and the other people were doing the moves. I'm wondering if it was intentional from all of them or not.
I think yes and no. I think there are some people who you might not be seeing as much on the screen that were kind of under the radar, whether that was purposeful or not. I guess you'll see as it goes on. Some people might talk about like,
right. I hear what you're saying. Alex was not doing confessionals. I got it. Right.
I mean, not exactly, but so like, I guess in the beginning, we did feel like it was a little bit of like this like kind of circular firing squad where everyone was just like, if you made a big move, like people were shooting at each other because they wanted to be the one up front or whatever reason, right? And I think you see that a lot, like Spencer, for example. Spencer wanted to be the guy who was moving a lot of the gears in the game, and then everyone was like, okay, well, stop. No, we don't want that. But I also think there are some lesser, like, I guess, people who weren't as influential in the game that did go out early. So it's kind of more or less, yes, I think a lot of big characters went out early. I think a lot of big characters made the merge. I also think some that weren't as big went out pre-merge and vice versa. Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to boil down to a science. But yes, there were some that intentionally did play quieter because everyone else was so loud.
I'm just excited for Ryan. I feel like
I mean, Phil.
Yeah.
Yes, Phil 2.0. They're close.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
They're
that's
fucking
Chris
close.
likes him because he looks like exactly like Phil, to be
He
honest.
literally is Phil.
The first episode, I was like, Ryan is my favorite person, hands down, because he's basically Phil, and he has continued to shine. I love Ryan. He's playing great. All about it.
I'm just excited for him to get more attention, more spotlight. I think that he's shown that he can be in the big alliance, but he's also pretty good at like just making relationships without being stuck to them. Like I think him and Autumn have a relationship that's salvageable where he could vote with her. But it's not as if he were tied to anyone. Like he could work with Greg, he could work with Allison, but he could just as easily be like, nah, I'm just gonna go with Autumn and Stephanie.
Yeah, I think he's one of the beneficiaries of like Nick being gone, and he's had chances to build some trust with certain like Greg and even maybe Allison, and there are people that would welcome him back like Stephanie. So, I mean, but also what I see is that I can see him being gone the next one or the one after because people may see him as a challenge threat, or if the Alex, Brooke, and Kelly come together and they want to control votes, then obviously he may be the next person to go if they see him as a challenge threat.
But he just don't have a good relationship with them because he's never done anything against them.
Right.
They were on the original tribe together. I think him, Autumn, and Jake are in the best spots in the game. I think the three of them can go in any direction they want. If the three of them come together, they could be the most powerful triple in the game.
Wait, let's talk about Jake because he voted differently last tribal, and to be honest, like he's great socially, but like even the one vote, like the couple votes that he voted someone out, like Spencer, that was by accident. He voted the right way. Regan, he was emotionally, like he was so mad at Autumn from the last vote about Raphael or something like that, and then he ends up voting. Like as much as I like Jake, I just like him to vote better or dictate a vote, not necessarily like fall one way or the other.
Well, I think the best thing for Jake is that everybody like kind of forgot about him, and like on his tribe, he just like figured out a way to blend in, and also he did a really good job at first spreading misinformation, or not even misinformation, spreading information that kind of allowed him to gain some trust, and then just fading back after that. But I really just like Jake needs a friend, man. Like he needs like someone that he can talk to and trust. I feel like we've never seen him like really be close with anyone except for I guess Raphael. But like that man, he just looks so sad with all the groups he's in, and I want to give him a hug.
And like I remember early on where it was like Nick was like, I guess I can use him, so he's in our group. So yeah, Jake's just been a sad boy the whole time, and I think he's going to continue to float until very late, just because I feel like everyone's going to be like, why get rid of Jake? He's not that big of a threat, even though he's been in almost every vote. He just hasn't had any say.
And I think that's an interesting point, especially what Swale said earlier with Jake has, yes, he has somehow miraculously made it through the pre-merge. And whether that be flipping the vote against Raphael, I do think he was instrumental in making that happen for what it's worth. But from there, the Spencer vote accidentally votes right. For the Nick vote, if you didn't see afterwards, he voted for Stephanie.
Right.
So, which was a throwaway vote at that point, and I think you'll find out more about that in the next episode as to why that was the case. But it's just he is not voting the right way, but he's making it through, which is impressive in of itself. But I don't know. I don't know if people like that. If he makes it far, does he have a case to say I was influential in these votes or not? I don't know. What do you?
Well, I'm not saying it's an argument to win. He's voted incorrectly and on the wrong side many times. I don't think that makes him a good player. I just think it's interesting that he's been able to survive so long despite being at the bottom of everything.
I don't think Jake's a perfect player, but I think he could be a good player. The way he's handled a lot of the scenes where he is vulnerable a couple of different times, he handled almost flawlessly. And you compare that to someone I think Ryan did a better job than Simon. Simon was so bad. Yes, Simon was in a tough position after the swap, but he was so bad. He was basically telling, I don't know, I think it was Autumn, hey, you can really prove your trust to us. It's you don't say that when you're the one at risk. And that's totally different from Jake, who kind of makes himself vulnerable, and he's really good at that. So I think we've yet to see Jake certainly be able to build himself in a power position, but he honestly had done that after the first couple votes on the first tribe. It's really just that he was kind of swap screwed. But I think Jake has some definite actual talent there.
Aaron, do you remember sorry, go ahead.
I think Jake's talent is that he's cool under pressure. I think that he was saved because Spencer went crazy hearing some information. And then he became safe because, Nick was just so clearly putting his hands everywhere in every cookie jar. And people were like, all right, we got to get out him. I feel like Jake is just someone that you look at and you say, yeah, we're not aligned with him, but he's not currently the one masterminding or overthinking or pushing.
Which is the perfect spot for him to be in, though.
Absolutely.
If he can put a group together, he is golden.
I was going to ask Aaron, and I don't remember this, whether or not when we thought Jake was going to go second.
Yeah.
Remember, right? And then everything flipped with the Raphael vote. But were we this high on him in real time, when we were watching this unfold when he got through votes, or were we just oh, there he goes voting the wrong way again? Because I don't remember. It was impressive. He just scraped away somehow. I think he calls himself the Scratcher. Was that right?
Right.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't think. I've been seeing a lot of fans it's true that Jake and Autumn are kind of the favorites. It seems among fans right now. It definitely was not the case in real time. I remember being happy that Jake survived that second vote because he's a nice guy, he's funny, he's good TV. But I wasn't expecting anything out of him. I didn't figure he'd last much longer. On the subject of him surviving the other ones. Pre-merge, yeah, I think his name kind of flowed in and out of a couple of conversations, but I don't know that we thought that he was making amazing moves to avoid anything.
Because it's super impressive. It really is.
It is, yeah.
Can we talk about my favorite player, Greg? He's so much fun to watch. He says everything and then does nothing. I don't like Greg.
I 99% don't like Greg. He's just, especially when he was with Mitch. I just get them both together.
I can't wait for the.
And then I don't like the player Greg either.
As a player, as a as a person too. But the thing about Greg is that he just ran a lot of numbers, just majority numbers, and sometimes that's just not how it works. And when I saw the Nick and Greg duo come together, I was just I hope this falls fast because I can't bear both of them together. That was just gonna be hard to watch.
Greg to me is the definition of just a game bot. It's when he talks, it's monotone, and what he talks about is just game, and just if we have 5, we have more numbers, so we will win. It's like, wow, good job, Greg. Thank you for this. Can't wait to hear about it next time you have a confessional.
Poor Greg Greg is just sitting there with this Greg sucks. I hate Greg.
I mean, look, I'm just being honest. I'm not a fan of Greg. I think that Mitch was the interesting person in the duo. I didn't like Mitch, but I liked him more than Greg. And I just...
I'm going to say something nice. I'm going to say something nice about Greg.
Boo.
In which that is, in that he will be a great host, not player. Perfect neutrality. Love the demeanor. I did like that when Mitch got voted out. Like we did see a little bit of passion in him, and like in the post vote moments. So I appreciated that. And Greg, I mean, really, if we're looking at like the airtime ranking, it's really the other people left. It's like Autumn, Greg, and then maybe like Jake Kelly. Then I think host Greg might be in 4th. But like I think there's still more to come from Greg's story, but I would like to see him do more of his own work and scrambling, and also like just have a little bit of a fire lit under him, and maybe that will happen at the merge.
And I think that's interesting because you do see he was locked into this Knicks 6, and like Swally touched on, like that once those two came together, you're like, oh, I hope that doesn't work out, and it didn't. For what it's worth, where do they go here? Because he really, I think in the beginning of this podcast we talked about, he really only had Allison going into the merge. So what do we think is next for Greg? Do we think he set himself up well? Who does he reach out to from here?
Oh, I think Greg's in a terrible position. I think that he can potentially get Jake because we saw a little bit of that. But like the thing about Greg is I don't think he's a personally compelling person like in the sort of personal social game. I think that Mitch was the one and Greg together were able to maybe pull in Ryan for a vote, pull in Jake. But it's like if Greg is there just pitching you're just going to be bored and you're going to be like, this guy is only thinking in numbers. There's no real personal touch to it. Whereas I see someone Autumn, someone like Kelly being able to touch on you as like a person able to talk about what you value, how it can work within their alliance. I just don't see Greg as a personally compelling salesman of an alliance or a plan.
I was going to say it's funny to hear things like that because like, I think, yes, on film, very strategically focused. But I do know coming out of the season and really throughout, like you always heard, everyone loves Greg. And that was the case. It was every single thing that was submitted to us. We would see everyone loves him. He's so personal. He's funny. He would say things at Tribal that were just like.
So then why do you edit it all out?
And I guess it could be my fault.
I mean, I think Greg is a really nice guy. I don't think anybody's denying that. It's just. Like, right. I want to see him have more fun.
Right, yeah, but I do think, for what it's worth, that he fell subject to a lot of things that I think a lot of people in the beginning of our seasons did, where they know they're putting themselves on camera, and it is like they want to talk about the game. They don't want to goof off and like waste our time in production, which, like, I get it. I think a lot of people become more comfortable with confessionals as they go. But yeah, Greg was very game body in the beginning. I agree. I do. But yeah, I mean, again, like it's not that representative of him as a person. He was really funny. He's a really personable guy. But it is hard when I don't have the film of it, you know, it really is.
I'm just sick of Greg because he's had the most time out of everyone left. And it's like, enough. I've heard it. We get it. 6, Mitch, all of it. Bye.
I mean, I'm sure, you know, when you're bringing pretzels, everybody likes you. I'm sure there are reasons to work with Greg. And I think.
Wait, Greg is the most overall, even more than Nick and Mitch. I'm angry.
Oh my gosh, Anders.
Anders. Okay.
So I think like I can't see people trying to work with Greg, especially people that have yet to work with Greg. So at this point, he's kind of working against a lot of numbers, and to be honest, I can see him going next or after. But then if things get shaken up, I don't see him going, maybe making it deep, but maybe he'll get lucky.
I mean, if he was able to rebuild his relationship with Autumn, which it looked like they kind of mended fences, and she could bring Stephanie over, and then already with Allison and Ryan and possibly Jake, like they could still put something together. Like I said, I personally don't think that group of 5 is completely out of the water. I think they could still do something with it.
Wait, Greg, can you answer this real quick? Why was Kelly a target again? Why were they so gung ho on Kelly?
She said have the path, Anders.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like
it's
it was after
true.
fucking 5 minutes.
I'm
But
serious.
that's why, though.
That is literally the reason.
That's it.
My God.
Or so it was so funny because I think between veering off the path at kickoff, everyone was like, "Oh, that's sketch." And then the other thing was what she told Simon in the first episode.
I
Yeah,
forgot.
she
She's
bragged
good at
about-
puzzles. She's
she
good
bragged
at
about all the-
puzzles.
What were you saying, Aaron?
That she bragged about idol hunting for like 10 hours. So
When did that happen?
Correct. I think this goes back to like Austin's
Oh,
thing,
I
where
agree,
like
yeah,
he was saying how like a lot of people are super fans, but doesn't mean they're just because you're a great super fan doesn't mean you're a great player. I think she does well. Like we need great audience, so like when she started playing it, and I think a lot of people that she was already overplaying it. So I think she's in a good position right now, just because of where her numbers are. But we'll see. I mean, not too excited for Kelly, but we'll see.
I think Kelly, when we really like break it down, it was the fact that she told Simon, "I walked 10 miles looking for the idol." Simon goes to Nick and says, "Hey, like she told me this thing. I want to target her." And then Nick was the one who allied with her and was the one who was like watchdogging her the whole time. It was literally every single step that she took, he reported back on. And so it's really it was a really interesting thing to see because she had a group that wasn't Nick's group the whole season. And it was just really, I don't know. I saw someone in the comments once say, like, I hope that Kelly overcomes this and gets Nick out, but she just doesn't have the numbers. She somehow found a way. I think she should be commended for that, even if it wasn't her move. But that's why she was a target, was literally episode 1, that one thing.
Poor Simon, he was the resident hot person of the season, and he just had nothing to do, nothing to say, and then he was out. And so who are we left with?
So we have Greg.
Melton over him. That's a last name fun.
Ha 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 ha.
Simon's last name. I checked the wiki before that one.
Okay. Well, so let's transition into a couple other I mean, unless we want to talk more about episode 7, I just want to talk about the pre-merge in general, some things. But did you guys have anything else on the episode itself?
I really hope that there's 2 things. One, how did they not understand the map? Did you write it in like marker? Like, did you make it up yourself? And the second question is, I really hope there's not a challenge about how many blades of grass did you walk over on the way over? It's like, do we need this challenge?
I loved, I think the first day, Aaron, was it the first day when I texted you saying we should do a challenge based on observance? And we were like, but it's going to be in like 3 weeks.
right.
Or
Wow, did you just throw Aaron under the bus? Wow, Greg. Wow.
No, he was saying
Wow.
no. He was saying that he texted me with the idea.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I guess it's my fault. I didn't say no, but
I wanted to fuck with them. It was like,
Oh, don't worry. We know you want to fuck.
You made them feel so bad. They're like, oh my God, how did I not remember that?
Right,
I
this entire season you
don't
go.
remember that. Nobody in their right mind would have remembered that.
I know. And I think that was the point, was we're like, everything is not what it seems. Like, stop reading into all this shit. People would like, I think we saw this in our first season, for example, like,
Wait, what do you mean? Stop reading into all this shit. If anything, you're like, you have to read into it.
Yeah, no.
It's an effect.
But
So-
how many trees were there? It's so funny to me when you're like, I said to be observant. Here's an idle clue. Why didn't you see it? It's like,
And that was
Ah.
the best punishment I think has ever happened.
also then it was like, okay, Nick, you get to choose. What do you want to do? I don't want to do it. You're punished for doing so.
I think Anders out of control. Let's move on for episode 7.
No, but I want to know about the map. I want to know about the map.
So the map. I did look at it as they were trying to figure it out, just to kind of make sure, because they were taking so long, and then I ended up having to be the one to like stop them because they were such idiots. But I did look at the map, and to be fair, there is a way that the map could easily have been read to mean across that street at Marketplace. I'm not blaming Greg, but I am blaming Greg. I'm not completely blaming the contestants. I think it might have been a little bit off, but at the same time, like, it took almost an hour. So
Yikes. I did have one point about episode 7 that I wanted to say. My only other question was, should Mara Mira I think it was Martin Mira, the one that Autumn was on. Should they have thrown the challenge?
Oh
If you're
my
like
god,
Greg,
yes.
right?
No, never throw
No.
the challenge. Never throw the challenge. Ever.
I don't understand why no one was throwing challenges at any point. Because, like, if Nick felt so confident about his numbers, he shouldn't have just let them go to Mara Mira go to tribal again and potentially lose Ryan, which almost happened. And then I don't understand why Greg and Allison specifically wanted to win so badly when they wanted to take out Autumn. It's like, this is the perfect opportunity. Get rid of Autumn. She doesn't have an idol, and if she doesn't, she can't go find it. To me, it was like,
but she could have found another idol though, and then one of them would have been out. My personal philosophy is never throw the challenge because you never know if somebody has an idol or not.
Wait, but you told me you were throwing that
So hard.
challenge in episode 3 of Maryland Outback. You claimed you were throwing it.
Phil claimed he was throwing because he blew like an hour lead on dominoes.
You mean Ryan blew it?
Ryan
Don't
blew
put
it.
Ryan on dominoes. Don't let him do it. I mean, I think that the clear. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andrews.
well, she was working like she was very stressed. She was working exceptionally hard. I think that is telltale signs of this person feels vulnerable. Like, I feel like if she had an idol, she wouldn't have been so pressed.
Well, I mean, I just think you don't want to always throw a challenge. I agree. Generally, it can be risky. However, you know the merge is next, and you know that Autumn 100% doesn't trust your tribe, and you know probably that based on how idols work in this, there's almost no chance she has another idol. I mean, I just can't think of a more obvious scenario. If your mentality is never throw, fine, but I think at least the thought has to be there because you're guaranteeing that someone who is never going to trust you or never going to trust you long term at least is going to make it to the merge if you win.
I think yes and no. I think to what you said, Austin, with the merge being so close, it's almost an adrenaline spike from that too, though. Like the people who are on that tribe, yes, in the moment, should they be thinking strategically? Probably. But they didn't go into that day thinking they were going to do another challenge. And when you throw that on them, are you almost just like, oh shit, like I've got to do something. Winning that challenge guarantees me the merge. It doesn't just guarantee me another vote. I'm getting to the stage of the game where everything changes. I think, I don't know if that ever went through their mind.
Yeah, that's part of the game is the not being able to react to things right away. At the same time, if we want to see the ultimate strategy and we're going to sit here talking about it, I think that's at least something. Clearly, they didn't consider it, but I think they should have thought about it at least.
I think a cool thing to throw into the mix there, with that being said, and I cut this just because editing-wise it didn't make sense to include it, but if they did go to a vote, if Mara Mira went to a vote, there was discussion on whether or not Ryan would vote with Autumn. And that was really interesting because Ryan wanted to vote out Mitch, and you saw that in the episode before. But when he found out that it had no traction because they needed 3 and Greg wasn't going to do it, or what they needed 4 and Greg wasn't going to do it, then at that point, Ryan was like, okay, I guess not. We'll still vote Autumn. But there was talk in this case where he was like, okay, Mitch is gone, and that's what I kind of wanted. Do I vote with Autumn again and force a 2-2 tie against Allison? I don't know. It could have happened. It really could have. So, yeah.
So much food for thought. We're consuming it.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was a cool thing. If that 4, now here's my question. If you are Stephanie in this case, and you know that your best friend is on the block on the other tribe, why didn't she throw it? She went directly against Autumn twice and won one of them. I think they might have gone 2 or 3 times. I don't remember. If you're Stephanie, do you think about throwing it if you're her?
I think
She
that
knew Kelly was after her, didn't she?
Yes,
Is that not a thing?
but she thought she was in the majority. Or
But
at least
also, doesn't she talk about not wanting to make it clear to everyone that she and Autumn are close? I think her throwing against Autumn, I thought about it too. Like, why wouldn't she? I think it'd be hard, first of all, to show you're throwing it, or like it'd be hard to make it not obvious you're throwing it. And I think she doesn't want to attract the attention of why is she throwing this? Does she feel safe? I can only see it being a huge risk. Oh my God, Danny!
Hey.
Danny.
Go ahead, Anders.
For those of you who don't know, this is Danny. I'll let him introduce himself.
No, it's okay. I'll just float.
Damn, this live just got
It's actually just the delivery pop part guy. Giant Pop-Tarts from Iron Rooster. Come visit us in Baltimore.
Just save me one.
I'm coming in like 2 weeks.
You didn't come to. Oh yeah, that's true. You are. Yeah, come to Baltimore.
Danny, do you have any opinions to share?
I liked it.
Thank you.
Spot on.
Sorry, thank you.
All right.
Woo.
Well, anyway,
Philippines. Sorry. Okay.
so let's move on. I think we've talked episode 7, like basically into the ground here. So moving on to just the pre-merge in general. We've talked a lot about like who the shining stars are, but who do you guys think, take all of the pre-merge, who is the MVP of the pre-merge? Who is set up the best to go far? Not just who did the best, but is going to get voted out maybe at 9, 8, 7, whatever. Who is set up the best because of what they did pre-merge, and why?
Brooke.
Oh, Chris is here.
Wow, that was my answer too.
Heard her name. Let's talk about Brooke.
I wrote in my notes before the episode that I had no opinion of her, and then after the episode, I wrote, "LOL, I still have no opinion of her. I don't know anything about her. I apologize, Brooke. I don't dislike you. I just feel like I haven't seen you enough."
Brooke is kind of,
Brooke, the Legion's gonna come get you, Chris.
I'm sorry. It's not dislike. I just feel like I don't know anything about her.
Extra. Chris Thomas hates Brooke.
That's basically what I said. Yeah.
we didn't get much of Brooke, but the things that we did get, I think they were, they showed promise. Like, I think the most we got out of her was the Spencer vote when Spencer was going, setting up this whole things. And then in the last minutes, she was able to flip it back on Spencer. So I think she has so much more game to play. And then looking at, I guess, going forward, obviously the 3 girls, Brooke, Kelly, and Alex, I don't see them. I think they will be a strong trio. And whoever they can reel in, whether it be Jake or Stephanie or whoever else, will fall in their lap. I think Brooke is probably insulated very well to go in deep. And I think out of the 3 girls, I feel like Kelly has a lot more people against her. So she may, if someone gets chopped down, it'd probably be Kelly on her side. So I can see Brooke being the dark horse here. To be honest, I have her as like in my final 2.
I'm gonna say it. I think a woman's winning.
Yeah,
I want to say that I actually think that Brooke is going to be the first boot of the merge. I think one of those 3 is going to be the target, and they're going to be afraid of an idol with Kelly, and they're either going to go with Alex or they're going to go with Brooke.
Well, I have a different answer to this question. The question was specifically who in the pre-merge set themselves up the best, right?
I mean, yeah, but I like the direction we're going. You can do whatever.
Well, but I think this is important to say though. It's a similar note to Brooke, but not Brooke herself. I think Brooke, like in a lot of ways, like I think her best episode was the one where they got Spencer out, but I don't know. It didn't seem like she did it too much intentionally or really put herself out there too much to get in her position. I thought the person who really did the best with some intentionality was Allison, who I don't really see in danger at all, and someone who is like set up with a bunch of relationships, pretty well liked from what it seems. I mean, yeah, she had a little bit of time, like a little bit of moments where she was at risk, but it didn't seem like it was ever too serious. But we had a really good check-in with her this episode, and I'm trying to find my notes on it. But I really liked the scene of kind of her talking about her approach and her gameplay. And so that to me signified that, yes, she does have a purpose to what she's doing. She's aware of what's going on and she's invested. And I think she is set up well. So I would say out of someone like, she's in a similar position as someone like Brooke, but she's actually done more and thought more to get there.
It's hard to believe. I mean, Allison, here's my take on Allison. I think she and Greg are paired, and I think if Greg falls, I think she has a chance to do better in the game. So I think as long as Greg is there, she will always be a second to Greg.
Shielded.
Yeah, she's shielded for sure. And actually, I think this idol that she's the clue, whatever she found, maybe will be maybe the agent that she needs to stand on her own 2 feet and play maybe against a lot of things coming against her, especially earning some trust with some new players outside from Greg and Ryan maybe. So I'm not sure. I'm not so high on Allison at all.
I think the MVPs have been, what we said earlier. It's good. It's Jake, Autumn, and Ryan because I don't think they're like set up, but I think they have the most potential to do whatever they want. I think Autumn got what she wanted out of this pre-merge. She got rid of the biggest threats that were against her. I think Jake has managed to stay through making relationships with almost every single person in this game, and while not being in control, has unlimited options. And then Ryan, despite being the majority or the minority on his tribe, has close enough relations with almost everyone, and I do see him as able to go wherever he needs to be. He can work with Kelly, he can work with Greg, he can work with Autumn. There's nothing stopping him from becoming a part of the majority.
First of all, having a shield is good. Having a shield and Greg is great going to the premier. Someone she can trust, but also would probably get voted out before her. I don't know why it's a bad thing. A lot of hate for my girl Allison. 2, let's not forget the fact that she found the idol clue, and this whole season we're being told that you have to be observant. She was the observant one. She was paying attention. That, to me, that's the win right there. Already have it.
But you see, if you would look at the edit, you'll find that Autumn is just as observant of people when they talk, their
Tell me
intention.
about the edit, please.
I love Autumn, but
But there will be none of this slander.
the best outcome is probably Autumn winning in my eyes, but I need to see her get through like 2 merge votes before I can feel comfortable, because she still doesn't have a lot of trust from people on her tribe. People like Ryan and Greg and Allison don't trust her, and they have connections on the other side, or could at least. I mean, the best move for her is joining up with Stephanie and really leading into that relationship, but she didn't really want to at first. I think there's a lot of potential for her, but in a season where we've talked about you can't stand out too much, Autumn stands out maybe more than anybody at this point.
Sure.
That's true.
You guys ready for a hot take?
Yes.
So, my opinion, even though he got voted out, the MVP of pre-4 merge was Mitch. Mitch by far hear me out. By far played the best strategic game. He had the numbers and was in control of every single vote, and he went to tribal to every single time outside of once. And he got idled out. He had the numbers. He was running the show. He just got unlucky.
He got idled out. He thought he had an idol, and I think that's the worst way to get out. You stand up as if you're about to play an idol, and you get your ego set it down, like, just goodbye. And I feel like he was really pissed off at, he was bitter.
He was playing a great game until that point. He had an alliance going into the merge. Everyone had voted with him until that point. Like, you can't say that he didn't play a great game until he got idled out.
I think
whether you like him or not.
I agree with you. I just think that his mistake was he was very apparently a huge threat, and I think everyone felt that. And I think going to merge, I don't know if he would definitely have not made the final 6 in any case. But I do think Mitch played a great game. I think even Autumn said this. It was just at the end he got too cocky, and like, instead of splitting the votes to ensure no idle shenanigans could happen, they're like, we can just get rid of Autumn. It's cool. See you, bitch. I think that Mitch did play a really good game. I just think that his missteps were very early on and right at the end. And I would say Nick played a really good game, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I think he did a lot early on and then just sort of coasted until he eventually finally had to go to tribal and died.
And to me, that's the difference between him and Nick. Nick talked.
We lost him.
CT, there you are.
We didn't hear it.
We lost you right after you said Nick talked.
I was just saying that Nick talked all that game, like he had all that strategy, but he never actually went to tribal and proved it. Mitch went to tribal and tribal and tribal and tribal. He proved it time after time after time. So I'm gonna throw him a bone. I actually liked Mitch. He was my favorite out of the duo of him and Greg.
For a person that didn't go to tribal, Nick did pretty well. Over strategizing. So, if I have to give an MVP for pre-merge, if you're trying to, if you have to, I think I'll give it to Nick. Not because I like him, just because I think he pushed the game. He's very advanced. No, it's a thumbs up, Austin.
Greg, quick question. Why does Kelly hate Stephanie again?
So from the very beginning, on the first day, she has a confessional that talks about that. They just say their leadership styles didn't mix well, was the one thing. And then on top of that, what ends up happening is, oh my God, I'm trying to remember this. This is so much things to think back to. Jake, so when Jake gets swapped onto Orlapiri, when he's the only one with the 5 others, there's a conversation that he has with Kelly that he got relayed information from his tribe saying, hey, Kelly, you're on the bottom. Stephanie is actually going after you.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that's kind of what stems that whole rivalry per se. But I think from the very beginning, Kelly wasn't a big fan in general. So it kind of was just something that lit the fire that was already there. So yeah. I also think I want to break down one thing from the pre-merge. We brought it up kind of. The Mitch vote. What happens if they split the vote? If they put a vote on Ryan, where does that set people up? Do you think it's better that X person loses Mitch and keeps Ryan? Let's kind of break that down, because obviously Greg, for example, someone who is very closely aligned with Mitch, loses Mitch. Is that better for him than it would have been to lose Ryan because of that whole thing maybe Autumn brought up, where it's like you're going to be targeted because you're with Mitch? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think in that case, Mitch would have always been targeted ahead of Greg. Like, he's just so much more out there as a sketchy personality that I think for Greg, it's obviously better to keep the close ally there. But the question will be if he can build a relationship. I mean, if he can get really close with Ryan and make that work, then maybe it'll work out better in the long run. But I think as we've seen it was definitely not good for him.
Yeah, I think if we talk about Allison having a shield and Greg, Mitch was a shield to both of them, and especially Greg, because he was just such a big target. I do think it was just smarter to keep Mitch around. I just think it was poor planning not to have a backup in case an idol was played, especially when, this person has had access to clues. And, why even risk it? You know that she wants to go after you. Why even risk that potential? Yeah, you'll have to explain to Ryan after why you voted for him, but I don't think it'll really change anything afterwards. Okay, we put a vote or 2 votes on you, Ryan, but you weren't going home.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, also obviously Mitch stays alive, but Mitch will continue to be a target because he's still paired with Greg. And then I think this will probably decrease the target on, I mean, not much, but still decrease the target on maybe Nick. But I think Mitch heading into a merge or an actual merge Mitch would be the actual target number 1, maybe then Nick and Greg or whoever falls in whatever order.
Anyone else? Are we good? Cool. All right. So I've hit on a lot of points that I want to get to in the pre-merge. If you guys have any favorite moments, anything else you want to bring up, whatever, we can bring up some behind the scenes secrets if we want to do that. I don't care. But yeah, other than that, I know we have power rankings that I asked you guys to do too, and we can bring those up if we got nothing else. So
my favorite part of the pre-merge was Simon. Goodbye. Look, what do you want? Me to be completely unbiased in that? You have a hot person there. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I stand. But then he said nothing and did nothing, and I was like, okay, bye.
Okay.
I've got nothing to add besides that. So
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. All right.
I needed to see Regan and Raphael go because I feel like they were, had higher potential, but it was how it turned out. Yeah.
Raphael, do we have higher potential?
I feel bad. I
liked-
connected with him first just because he was the first one to speak, and I was like, yeah, I get that. Then he was just screwed over.
I think Aaron, wasn't that my winner pick?
Greg.
Yep.
Also, you have
I
nowhere to talk.
literally ordered the vote in their thing in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order or something like that, and I did way better than Greg. So, I mean,
I remember when I was asked before the season started to look over all the cast interviews and put them in the ranking of how well I think they'll do. I don't remember anything about it except I had Kaki really high, and it just didn't work out well. I was like, oh, she'll do well. She knows the game. She's very smart. She's very social. And then
Sigourney's curse. It's just awful.
right, he's a member of the family already, and we had high hopes for her, but it didn't work out.
I think production ranked her number 1 overall. Between everyone's rankings, we averaged out where people said that she would place. I think she was the highest.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We broke down her vote out for 2 hours at Survivor Michigan. But I think honorable mentions for the episode or for this pre-merge, just because we haven't talked about them much. RIP, Raphael, Regan, Spencer, Simon, Mitch, and Nick. We've talked about all of them. They each had an impact in the game in different ways. I think some more exciting than others, right? Like the Spencer vote changes like 5 minutes before the vote. That's a wild ending. I think other ones maybe a little bit like let down a little bit. I mean, it sucked. Like there wasn't that much they could do with Regan and with Raphael and Simon specifically. I mean, they just were on the wrong side of the coin, you know? So wanted to make sure I mentioned them on the podcast because they were a valued part of the season. But well, all right, whatever.
They were a part of the season.
Not so much valuable.
All right, so from here, I asked everyone here to make a power ranking of the final 9. And this power ranking is, I think the instructions I gave was like, I don't know if you want to rank it by like who is the most likely to win or who do you like or whatever. Any
Porque no los dos was the
That was the exact quote. Yeah.
Right. I just said rank the 9 based on any criteria you have. And yeah, let's just go into it. You can explain as much or as little as you want. But yeah, whoever wants to start.
Well, here's my hottie ranking. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna start.
Can you do that too, please.
No, I'm not gonna start.
Okay.
What was the point of that?
I don't know. I just wanted to be fucking stupid. Why can't I just say stupid
Okay.
things?
Well, my stand rankings are a lot easier than my power rankings because the power rankings I just was like throwing up dice and seeing what I did.
Let's hear both.
Stand rankings, we'll start with 9th place because sorry. I'm still sometimes had to be convinced this person's on the season, but Alex is number 6 or number 9. 8 is Greg because I don't know. 7 is Brooke. Brooke has a lot of potential to rise. I'm sorry to the Brooke stands, but I need to see more. Stephanie at number 6, but again has potential to rise. I had to put Ryan at number 5 because the Phil stuff. Allison at number 4. Kelly at number 3, like the underdog status from the beginning, and then there's another tier with the top 2. I have Jake 2 and Autumn at number 1. And we'll just make those my power rankings too because they're more fun. Not really though; they're not my actual power rankings. I have them.
Okay. Do you want to hear those, or do you want someone else to go first?
Yeah, I was gonna think somebody else can go, but it's really up to you guys.
Okay.
Whoever wants to.
I mean, I can say my power rankings, and it's kind of it's a little bit of stand and power ranking, but I also have it's based on also who has the highest potential to go far to even play probably the best game. So I'll go from 9 to 1. I have Allison on number 9. Sorry to Allison stands. Then I have Alex. Then I have Greg. Then I have Kelly. Then I have Jake, Ryan, and then in my top 3, I think people that can probably play great games. I have Brooke at 3, Autumn, then Stephanie, and that's me anticipating that Stephanie and Autumn work together to kind of shift votes left and right. And like me, based on relations that I see, I think it's that's probably the highest. I feel like a lot of information come to Stephanie, a lot of information come to Autumn, and I see them dictating the vote. And will they be the final 2? No, maybe not. But I see Brooke probably making a save there. So that's my top 3.
Okay.
So I'll go next because 2 of Swale's top 3 are in my bottom 3. With number 9 being Brooke, like I said, I just haven't seen enough from her. 8 would be Greg, 7 would be Stephanie, 6 would be Allison, 5 would be Kelly, 4 would be Alex, and I guess I'm seeing in Alex what y'all are seeing in Brooke. Let me explain it. Let me explain it. So what everyone is seeing in Brooke, we all saw that episode when Spencer went out. To me, I didn't see a lot of Brooke in that episode. I saw a lot of Alex. And I guess it was probably a combination of the 2 of them.
I think you need to go rewatch it because I don't think it was Alex.
I guess I like her. She seems like a really personable person. She seems like everyone likes her. Like I know Spencer said he really liked her from the first. Obviously, he's out now. But she just seems like someone that's...
We lost him again.
Good.
Damn, did you lose me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me again? Hello? Am I live?
Yeah.
We hear you.
All right, that's fine. I'll get off Alex then. Anyway, 3 is Autumn. 2 is my boy Ryan/Phil. And then 1, I picked Jake to win. He was my winner pick, episode 1. I'm sticking with it. I could watch at 2 hours worth of just Jake confessionals. By far the best confessional, guys. Hilarious.
I agree with you, and I'm glad you did, but I cannot believe you put Ryan at number 2.
That's how much I like Jake's confessionals.
You think that's me and Chris have almost the exact same top 3? My number 1 is Ryan. Number 2 is Jake. Number 3 is Autumn. My number 9 is Alex. Then Brooke. Then Greg. Number 6 is Stephanie. Then it's Allison. Then Kelly. Then Autumn. Jake, Ryan. And this is not who I think is going to win. I think Autumn's going to win. If she doesn't, I'm going to be bitter. But I just think in terms of power, I think Ryan has the most power to do anything and go anywhere. And unlike Jake, I think he's been proven to be successful in voting correctly. Like, my issue with Jake, despite having every avenue to do whatever he wants, he's always on the wrong side of the votes. And I just think he needs to be the one in charge, but he's just never had that ability to do so. Meanwhile, I think Ryan has enough power to at least sway it. But yeah, I still think Autumn is going to win. I just think that there's more of a target on her than the other 2.
Yeah, let me point out with Jake as my number 1. I think Jake has played terribly to this point. But I think he's in probably the best position.
Do you want him to be the leader of the vote on the tribe where he's the only person? What do you want for that?
I think he has made some blunders that has put him in the position that he's in. But I will say I think he's in the best position in the game. I think he has the best confessionals in the game. And I think he has the best talent in the game to go to the end.
But I'm asking, though, what blunders has – okay, maybe –
blunder number 1, he was on a different tribe in the beginning. Blunder number 2, he was swapped onto a different tribe. Blunder number 3, he wasn't there for those 3 days or whatever, remember?
He just hasn't connected with people, I guess. I mean, he's put himself in this spot. You can't blame anybody but yourself.
But his
spot, not like he got screwed.
That he was out. He was out that first vote 100%, and his spot now was that he did survive the target and wasn't even mentioned as a target. That's enough. That's going up.
He's number 1 in my rankings, so I'm not arguing with you.
I want to know that about playing from the bottom. You don't just go from the bottom to just instant. Well,
let me correct myself. Maybe not terribly as in gameplay in relation to everybody else. Terribly in the way I think he can play. I think he is by far the best player in the season. I think he has potential to win.
No. The best player.
That's my take.
No, because he's voted incorrectly in almost every single vote.
Correct. That's my point. But I think he's going to fix that, and I think he is going to run the merge.
Oh, surprise. Chris Thomas thinks the underdog at the pre-merge is going to win it all.
My bad.
I think we're forgetting that Autumn is the best player.
But she should have been voted out if she didn't have an idol. I don't think Autumn has played great either.
And you know what? Jake should have been voted out 100 times. You know,
I love both of them. Don't get me wrong. Both of them have potential to play a lot better.
And I'm not okay with it. First you tell me that Brooke. First you say that Brooke sucks. Now that you're saying Autumn's hot garbage, how dare you?
Putting words in my mouth, Anders.
At least we can both agree. Alex is amazing. She's really doing a lot for us. Her 12 confessionals, they've convinced me. You know.
I'm a stan.
I don't know how she
all I know is that she is way more likable to me with 12 confessionals than Greg has been with 60.
I hope that Greg Freeberg takes this feedback and just totally cuts Greg out of the entire episode.
My God, if only we could be so
like, he's like photoshopped out. Like there's like white out over him. I'm just kidding.
I take constructive feedback.
Okay, here's some feedback. Can we have less Greg, please?
Which
I don't care.
Which Greg?
Both.
I think you know which one. Let me stop.
Should I go to my power rankings?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
All right.
I don't feel good about these, so for the record, I don't stand by them. I don't stand my own power rankings, but it's fine. At number 9, okay, so how I view power rankings are that it's a mix of, like, you have to be able to have some power to influence things in the game, right? That's what power is. However, I think not getting voted out for at least a few rounds is a factor of power, because if you get voted out, you're going to have no power. So I factor in both things into that. So number 9, this person has so little power and has done so little in the entire game that I just have to put them here, and that would be Alex. Sorry. Not sorry. Number 8, I have Kelly, because I'm a little worried. Like, I think there's a potential that she will be fine, especially with the girls thing. But like the sting of Nick not trusting her the whole game, whatever. I'm just worried that for whatever reason this will come back up again. and people will be like, "Oh, Kelly's such a threat. She's been running the show, whatever." So I'm a little worried about that. Number 7, I have Ryan because I don't really know, like, now that Nick's gone, how many relationships he has on the other side. Look, I'm Chris. Not saying I want him to be out, but I don't know how bonded he is now. Like, is he tight with any of the girls? I'm not sure.
He's tight with everybody because he has a great personality.
Yeah, we love him.
You're right. Number 6, I have Brooke because, more potential there. 5,
Wow,
Autumn definitely has the potential to take over as number 1 if she gets it right, but she just, she's very out there. This is not Stan rankings, Anders. This is power rankings. It's different. She has been targeted.
I feel attacked. I feel personally.
You shouldn't feel attacked. I want to say while we're here, though, like, Autumn over anyone, she would have been so good in season 1. Like, she would have been right there with, like, the 3 queens. It was such a better fit for her. Like, she was just, like, 1 season past her time. She would have been literally perfect in that cast.
And she almost applied for it, too.
Well, she should have. Or it'll work out for her anyway. I don't know. But that was a not necessarily a missed opportunity, but it
Greg, this is your fault.
4, I have Jake because, as Chris said, he's in a pretty good position now where he can kind of float to whatever he wants. 3, I have Stephanie because, especially with Autumn, but also having kind of the tribe she's been on things, I think there's a lot of options going forward. 2, I have Allison because she's not going to be targeted. And 1, even though we talked about how he could be a threat, I think, as kind of Greg Freeberg has pointed to, and unfortunately, I think we're in it for the long haul with other Gregs. So I think that he will be pretty safe and will have a lot to say of what happens in this early pre-merge.
Oh, even if he was around for one other episode, he'll have a lot to say. It'll be like, now that we're merged, there are 9 of us. So we just need to get an alliance of 5. I could go back to the old alliance, but I really need to think about the other numbers here. There are 4 new people, so I've got to talk to them. And then every time we'll hear about the goddamn 5. I can't wait for him to reach 100 confessionals by next episode. Now that Nick and Mitch are gone, we need to have some other white dude to give us all of the points.
No comment.
Just kidding. I love Greg. I stand.
Do I have to go back and re-edit some stuff?
It's like those Russell Hands re-edited seasons when they take him out of the edit.
Oh, no. Anyways, I think for what it's worth, on the point of editing someone and
Greg, you don't have to defend Anders as being
No.
ridiculous.
I get it. I understand why he has a lot of time. He's in the decision chair. He's
That's
in
what
a lot of strategy talk. I get why he's put in the edit so much. I just hate him. I just don't like Greg. Who is it in season 1? I kind of blocked him out of my memory because I got so tired of him. Hold on. It was fucking Vinny. He reminds me so much of Vinny.
Vinny was great. What are you talking about?
It was every episode we had to hear how Vinny was.
Anders off of this call. Greg, please.
No, I hate
this Vinny take. Will Wall would have been a more reasonable comparison.
Yeah.
No, because the issue I have with like the Gregs and Vinnies is that it's so game body and it's always like, let me tell you every single thing I'm thinking all the time in every episode in every scenario. It's like, I don't care. Can we talk about Alex? Where is she? Does she have nothing to say? What about Allison?
Anders. Okay. Anders.
I should throw out that Greg, he seems like a smart player. Yeah, he's a game bot. He does really bad confessionals, but like, he's not a bad player. Give him a break.
I think there's a lot to say. I think kind of what you guys were alluding to with if they're in the decision, I got to show it. And there are some people that are really fun people and they're probably really personable. But like, if I show them, then I'm wasting my time in an edit. Like, you don't want to. If you want to watch a video about how great they are, go watch their pregame confessional. Like, if they're not involved in the discussion, I'm not going to show Kelly, Brooke, and Alex when Orla Puri is voting in the first 3 tribals because it's not important. But they're great people, you know. You know,
so that makes sense. Yeah,
I get it. Greg is always. I just wish they didn't lose so much, so I didn't have to hear about Greg and Mitch and what their plan is. That's it.
We just want more Jake narration. That's all.
To.
Jake and Autumn narration. That's all we asked for.
I mean, the Orla Puri tribe in the beginning was a train wreck. It was awful.
Hey! They've been a train wreck this entire game. They continue to be. I'm gonna say it. Orla Piri had the more interesting characters. I feel like, and maybe it's just because we've had more time, but like I think I connect more with them
I
than I
don't
do.
think that's a hot take at all.
It's a very
Okay.
cold take.
Yeah. I
It's
mean, I agree
fine.
with
the beginning in that first episode too, they're the tribe that's like lower energy. But for what it's worth, like, yeah, you do know them better because they're on screen more and everything because they have more influence into decisions. But really, I mean, they are fun people, and you get some like really quirky characters in there too. And like, yeah, you have the game bots, but then you have like the person who's never seen Survivor before with Allison, who like she's very fun. And like, there's other people on that tribe just in general who like Autumn gets pissed off at anything that doesn't go her way, and then you see like she starts contemplating decisions that go against everyone else. Like, they are interesting developing characters and people, and Mitch is very game body and paranoid, and like, you know, it was fun, and Jake's hilarious, obviously.
low energy. Do we just start doing it? Orla Piri exclamation point?
It's kind of what they needed. I don't know. They always, I mean, when they lost, it was always just so depressing. But I mean,
They did it 8 times?
Well, the worst was they lose, and not only does Greg yell at them for losing, but he yells at them for not finding the idol clue while they're losing.
Yeah.
Like, really add insult to injury.
oh yeah, I know. But like, I don't know. For what it's worth, we in the moment when Orla Piri kept losing, we were like, okay, it's just that group. And then eventually, I think Mara Mira went to tribal twice? Was it, Aaron? I don't even.
Twice, yeah. But after the swap, it was still mostly Orla Piri losing. Doesn't matter who you want to try. Yeah.
It like didn't matter. We just called it the Orla Piri curse. If you weren't orange, it sucked. Like you kind of were just screwed from the beginning.
You know, I have to wonder. This is actually a serious question. I have to wonder if like Kelly, Alex, and Brooke are potentially their power is lessened because they just have less experience at tribals. Like, I feel like Allison, Autumn, Greg, they all have a lot more experience with tribals, so I feel like they're better suited for the strategizing, the making of plans, the switching of plans. I feel like the same way that Nick had no experience and therefore was a lot like it just sort of his power had sort of diminished in terms of being able to read situations, being able to control them. I wonder if Kelly, Brooke, and Alex will fare worse than everyone else in the merge because they don't have the experience and they're stuck in their 3.
Tribals now. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, I would disagree because the last tribal was live. You know, they fared well. They got Jake to throw a vote away, and then they got Stephanie to flip to vote with them. And I think that's a good enough experience of a tribal council experience.
So here's my question on that same note. Is it better, do you think, I mean, you saw Nick goes to one tribal, has never tested any of his alliances, and gets voted out. Is it better then to be someone who did go a ton of times to put yourself at risk more? By the time you get to the merge, you've built yourself up as a social threat who's gone through all these tribals too. What's better to do then? Is it to make the merge after having gone to all these tribals, or is it to maybe win a couple challenges? And that's okay.
Yes, Wally, what do you think?
Excuse me. You know, it's hard. Like, I think, for example, like Jake went to multiple in the series, but he didn't come out, you know, on top or at least happy with the outcome. So, and going to multiple tribals, and if you're not showing your dominance, make sure, like, you know, your votes are not going your way, then I think it's beneficial. But if you're someone like Mitch or Greg and who's been to tribal councils and you've always been coming on the right side of the votes, then in the long run, I think that hurts your game because you're seen as always being in, you know, in a power position or shifting the votes in your favor.
Anyone else?
I think it's beneficial to go to tribals. I think it strengthens your bonds. I think it does create enemies, but I think it allows you to sharpen your ability to read other people. It allows you the opportunity to socialize, create those bonds, create future plans, and cement them as this is a legitimate thing. You can trust me. I think a lot of these players are constantly talking about how much can they trust everyone. I mean, Stephanie wasn't sure how much she could trust her alliance. Ryan wasn't sure how much he could trust Autumn or how much he could trust Greg or how much he could trust Mitch. I think going to tribals gives you that opportunity to test it out and to grow. And I think by not going to them, you lose out on the opportunity not only to get rid of people that you don't trust, but also to grow trust with the people that you want to have trust with.
I mean, I think that it's a very popular take in the Survivor community with the intentional matsing and like, oh, it's great to, lose a lot of challenges and have that bond, whatever. But to me, like, if you go to one tribal before the merge, that's enough. Like, if you have established one time when you built trust with people and proven it to others, like, that's enough for me. You get some experience, you experience what it's like. Beyond that, like, it's easy to say when you're the one that's surviving on the tribe that loses, but there's a lot of people who they don't get there. And also there's so many seasons where having that numbers advantage at the merge gives you a lot more options. And whether it holds true or not for a while, at least you either can try to hold it true or you can flip it up yourself. You just have a lot more power and autonomy. So I think it's easy to say that you gain a lot from that. And we see it a lot when tribes never go to tribal and never prove that trust. But I still think that there's benefit to at least trying to win, most of the time. I don't know, Chris, as someone who played losing a lot of challenges in your first season, we did see a good example there of a tribe that had never gone to tribal before merge, but did you think it was helpful?
So I'm going to 100% side with Anders on this one. I think the more tribals you get through, the better chance you have of winning the game. And like you said, it's not just building the relationships with the people that you go to tribal with, but it's figuring out yourself. If you go to one tribal, coming to merge, like, you don't really know what your skills are. You don't know what your strong points are, your weak points. Going to tribal after tribal after tribal, you figure out what's best for your game, what your weaknesses are and how you can adapt and figure out how to move later down the road.
Yeah, and here's another element is that going to tribal council, I think, especially if it's your first time, you're obviously at a disadvantage. But going to tribal council, especially if you make it through a tribal council where your name was on the block, and I can speak to this, and maybe CT you can too, is that how to fight going into future tribal councils, right? But let's say, like, for example, like Simon on his first tribal council, he handled it very poorly, even knowing that he was down in numbers. He didn't build up the fight that he needed to. But if you've been to multiple tribal councils, for example, like Jake, he knows how to handle maybe final 9, final 8, and going forward. So definitely going to tribal council helps. But obviously, you don't want to, I do see what Austin is saying as well. But you need at least one so you know how to fight, and you don't want to be, blindsided or handled poorly on your first tribal council.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Go ahead, Anders.
I think a counterpoint to Austin, where it's like one loss is enough. It definitely is, but if you're in a position such as Raphael, such as Jake, such as Autumn, where like perhaps the first vote is not in your favor, going to more votes allows you the opportunity to find those cracks, build the relationships, and get in a better position. I think if you are in the majority, one tribal is definitely enough. But I think if you're not, the more tribals you go to, the better opportunity there is for you to get some foothold on the game. I think
it's a lot easier if you just survive to merge, and then if you don't have to worry.
I agree. I'm just saying that
for Raphael, if they won every other challenge.
No, but what I'm saying is that can also create a scenario where the majority that existed on your tribe continues at the merge and just has the power. I think it's completely dependent on the people you're around and the amount of people, how many tribals you would go to. But I think in general, I would side with going to more tribals than less, just because you get the opportunity to change up the dynamics and get yourself in a better position, even at the risk of potentially going home, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have very few relationships and the ones you do are very negative or you're on the bottom.
Yeah, and I think on the last tribal council, we saw the people talking, whispering to each other. I mean, I think it caught me off guard of how dominant Nick was, beforehand, but at tribal council, he was kind of, I think he set up with his prize and he was just responding to Greg rather than actually whispering to people. I think that showed when the lack of tribal council he's been to. I think he wasn't really alert enough to whisper and even interrupt people whispering. I think he felt very comfortable, and that's why the vote wasn't initially him and switched from Stephanie towards Nick. But also, I think he probably regrets probably not fighting enough at tribal council.
I feel like Nick made a lot of relationships outside of his actual tribe. Like, when I'm thinking about the people on his tribe that he was close with, he was kind of close with Jake, and then it was Stephanie. But everyone else, he just sort of didn't create those relationships with. For someone who was constantly gaming like Nick, despite never going to a tribal council, you think he would have worked harder on Alex or Brooke. He was always just resigned to say they're with Kelly.
I think he had a great relationship with Kelly. I think she even said in her voting confessional that she didn't want to vote for him, but it was the only option because he was refusing to vote for Stephanie. And I think that was his downfall.
That I think it's also that he didn't even try to flip it onto Brooke or Alex, who didn't seem to have relationships with anyone besides Kelly.
I was just saying, here's a question based on that. Is there any scenario, do you think, in that 6 that Kelly, Brooke, and Alex don't vote together?
No.
Not from
No
what we can
whatsoever.
tell.
No.
Right, because there's.
I don't know Alex's perspective.
What was that?
I don't know Alex's perspective.
Who is Alex again?
But like, I think it's interesting to think about because, yeah, could they turn it anywhere else? I don't know. Like, does it just end up being that Kelly, Brooke, and Alex are going to vote as that 3 in the direction of Nick, Stephanie, or Jake, no matter what, and then one of them has to turn? I mean, again, I know you can't see a lot of it in the edit, but at some point, I think kind of what Austin was saying, because in my opinion on tribals and going to tribals, like, yes, I do think you have one of my favorite players ever is Denise Stapley, who went to every tribal. And like, to me, that's awesome. You can say that as your final case is I survived, which is the name of the game. But at the end of the day, I also think impact in general and game impact is really important. And then the tribals that you do go to, if you only go to 1, if you only go to 2, who are the people that you're voting out? How much of an impact and how much of a driver are you in the game? Where like we only see 2 tribals for Kelly, Brooke, and Alex, but they voted out Spencer, who was someone who was turning a lot of heads, and then you see they vote someone out like Nick, who everyone said was the key player in the game. Like, do they have a case over someone who like voted out a Regan or a Simon, where it's an easier vote?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Just like, yeah, they've only been to 2 tribals, but they've made noise at both tribals, and they do seem at least to have a pretty strong bond. So I mean, yeah, I don't think like in their case it was a bad thing to not have a lot of tribals. But I mean, yeah, like overall, I think it's important to go, but I think there's got to be a balance. Like Austin said, like just 1 is enough, but yeah, I think maybe 1 is enough if you make noise. But like as we've seen, not just in College Survivor, and like every Survivor, like, you know, people feel comfortable, even if we're talking about like numbers. Like if it's a fairly wide gap, people feel very comfortable going against their own, at least at the beginning, because they feel like they can still salvage it. So if you are like not in the majority, like it's important to like kind of get your footing. Like if you can figure out a way to survive a couple of those and make some noise, like these 3 girls have done, then you're in a good position.
Yeah, so I don't know, it was a cool. I love discussions like that where it's like kind of meta about Survivor in general, right? Like, I don't know what the best way is, because if you watch our first season, like the people who make the end game in that, and spoilers, whatever, if you're watching this, like the people who make the end game are people who went to, like some of them who went to 2 tribals pre-merge in our season. I mean, and is that the right way? I don't know. As opposed to like our train wreck of a tribe that was Mayra that lost a ton. And then like it just, I don't know what the right way is. And I don't think there's a science to it, because if you're winning challenges, does that mean you're a great team player and you work well with people? I think that's a good thing to say at Final Tribal and be like, I work well with people. I didn't go to tribal because I worked well with them.
Yeah, and we've seen, like, speaking about like season 1, like I said, when the numbers gap is bigger, like people feel like they have like more leeway, and so like they were able to get out Tyler like before they went for Jake. But like we've also seen that, you know, crumble. We've seen people say like, oh, you know, it's 8-4 or whatever, and have it completely flip because they were like too comfortable in the numbers. And could that have to do with like not, you know, having to go to tribals much and understand how voting dynamics work? Maybe.
I think it's good that these 2 tribes come in with basically identical numbers, and
Right.
the fact that they've switched over and worked, and just like there's been enough swapping that the original tribes don't matter. Because I remember in season 1, it was like there were 4 people or 3 people from one tribe, and it was like, well, they're just puppets. Like they have to. It was Will,
Jake, and Max.
Will, Jake, and Max. Max, we stan.
Watch
but like,
it.
you know,
Are You the One? MTV.
Are You the One? He's great. I love him. But it's like, you know, they were at the mercy of what everyone else wanted, and their only use was just voting out people on the original tribe they couldn't have enough numbers for. But I think what's great about Our Honor Defend is that I don't see this being like, okay, everyone on original Mara Mira votes out someone from Orla Piri. I just see it as being like, okay, everyone's going to make the best decision for themselves. And, it doesn't really matter what happened early game because things have shifted so much. I do like the fact that there was like swaps and mutinies and whatever. I'm just excited to see what happens. How does the actual merge shake out? Because I can see it being a huge alliance comes out or very small ones. I just want Autumn to win.
I have to go to bed pretty soon. Can we get the behind the scenes tea?
Yeah. Well, Aaron, you had some things that you wanted to share, I believe, right?
Yeah. So just when it comes to episode 7, the fake merge kind of idea, it was pretty last minute. We had a meeting of all the executive board, and we were talking about like what we wanted to do, and we threw around the idea of a fake merge, but it had to be kind of like perfect. We didn't really we didn't want to do it unless we had like a great idea, so we tabled it. But then like literally right after that meeting, in the lobby of the Ohio Union, Greg and I were just kind of talking downstairs, and it just sort of kind of came together. Like I would shoot an idea, he would shoot an idea. Like I would say, like, why don't we bring the map idea back from the premiere? And like, my bad on that, guys. And then Greg would say like, oh hey, like why don't we like avoid using the word merge like in the documents so that they can like maybe piece it together. And then obviously like we don't have to try to highlight Greg's theatricality. He highlights it all by himself. But we came up with the idea of, hey, like, I don't remember actually whose idea this was, but like have them make the new banner like kind of alone, just like being like 1 or 2 cameras, and then have Greg like appear as if by divine ascension or whatever from the top of the garage. And then I think it was my idea. I said like, hey, why don't we film you like running down the stairs, like be all dramatic and everything.
Never again.
I felt bad.
It was so funny.
Kelsey was running with me, and I felt so bad because she's running with this phone in her hand and like running down steps. She's not looking down. She almost fell. I felt awful, but like it was funny. I don't know.
You didn't look like you felt awful. I'm gonna be honest. You really were smiling from ear to ear.
It was a lot of fun.
Like awful involves a lack of a beaming smile, but that's not what I saw. I'm just calling how I see it.
Yeah,
I think it was a lot better. Like, especially the way that I kind of edited it too was it wasn't like that surprising where I was, but in the moment when we're thinking of it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so good. Like,
wait, why wasn't it surprising?
Well, 'cause I'm pretty sure like Ryan even says it. He's like, oh, he's probably on the parking garage.
Yeah.
well, he said, I mean, he didn't know you were there, but he guessed it. Yeah, but
Yeah,
like
hosts out there, hiding never works. I tried that too. It just they're like, oh, okay, you're there.
Actually, I have a point. I did also a find me on campus thing, and they couldn't find me because some mates got lost.
Yeah, also because you were like puking.
Yeah, you were
No,
busy
that was
last minute running around.
season 7. I was puking. That's what was happening.
yeah, but then like we reveal it, and they're all we expected them to be like, oh yeah, like clapping, like because we thought we were being a lot more savage than we actually were. Like, or at least that was my opinion. Like at the beginning, before the episode came out, or like before the season came out. But like as the season progressed, like on air, I started thinking to myself, oh, okay, I'm starting to get it now. Like we did a lot of stuff to them. And if I was like on the season, I probably too would have been like, oh my God, it's like another thing. Here he comes. It's a new thing. Like I would have been groaning too instead of applauding. But I do remember we were talking about like, oh, this is going to be amazing. They're going to be so happy and like surprised. And then it ended up being like, and we were complaining. But I get it now.
Question: did you guys do the challenge and walk straight to tribal? Was there any like an hour or 30 minutes? Was it just straight walk?
We filmed that. We gave them post-challenge pre-tribal confessionals, like you saw, like in the field, and then we walked straight there in silence, and we did the tribal.
And then we threw firecrackers at them. Punishment.
Yeah, we stopped like one step short of that as when it came to like doing horrible things to them. But we did some stuff.
I have a question about the challenge. So when they kicked it over, like it didn't count as a point if they weren't directly on top of each other, right?
Correct.
So kicking it over was a legitimate strategy. Okay.
Right, yeah, it was a real strategy. Like the exact rule was it had to be completely covered. So like also the ones where they weren't kicking it off, like where they were trying to cover them, if there was still like even a little bit of the other one showing, it was 1 point each. And that didn't come up like on camera so much, but like it definitely came up when it came to deciding who got points. Like, and as you might remember when we were dealing with the fallout from episode 3's challenge, we do have exact rules and completely decided beforehand. We explain them to the contestants and we follow them to the letter. So,
Wait, what happened in episode 3 again? Sorry, remind me.
Episode 3 is when the last cup for Mara Mira got knocked off.
By the wind.
Knocked off the bag. But the rule was that it just had to, even if it rolled off or anything happened, it just had to come off without them touching the table or touching the cups, and that's what happened. So,
Yeah. I think the fun thing with this challenge, I had to cut this completely out just because, again, it wasn't really that important. But like the last round between Autumn and Stephanie actually was ran twice because the first time I said go, neither of them moved. And because they both decided to strategize the challenge where like one would follow the other so that any cones that they flipped over, the other one would then flip that one back over. And they just literally stood there for like maybe 5-10 seconds.
I love them.
And I was so angry. I'm like, play the damn game, please, for the love of God. And they're like, we're both strategizing. I'm like, but you're doing the same thing. Just play the game.
yeah, I mean, hey, as someone who helped design the challenges, as someone who was the creator of the let's tie people together and blindfold them on the garage and hope nobody dies challenge, I like it when people game challenges. I think if you can figure out a way to game the challenge, that's great. But you have to do it in a way that it still gets run.
To be fair, even when they did that strategy, did it really work that well? Like,
Yes, very.
I just remember, who was it? It was Nick following someone, and he still
Right,
lost.
Ryan.
but-
Twice.
yeah, they tied twice. So like, yeah, I could see it. Whatever.
Was that challenge full contact?
No, the thing was like you always couldn't sabotage like any. I mean, if they ran into people, yeah, like.
Were they allowed to kiss?
I mean, if you wanted that, sure.
If Simon was in the game.
I didn't say that, you fucker.
Yeah, but you didn't have to.
But yeah, no, I mean that challenge was it was so simple, and it was the biggest thing was just turn it over however you want. We let people kick it. Like we were very strict. Like as soon as we said off, like hands off, and you see everyone falling everywhere because of that. But it was a really fun one because I mean I wish that one of my regrets is that we didn't do like 3 people at a time running around. Aaron, I think that would have been a lot of fun and just like chaos. I mean, maybe even the whole tribe.
Hey, Greg, I have a question actually about the tribal. So I know you were asking questions to them the whole time. You know how in the show, in the CBS show, like Jeff will just sit there and let them talk. Like sometimes he'll, if someone's sitting there not talking to anyone, he'll ask them a question. But were you requiring them to answer, or did you give them any time just to let them talk through it?
I think in the moment it would at that tribal specifically, it was like if I'm gonna ask a question, like you kind of see it with Jake, for example, like poke your head out and answer it. It was kind of the expectation.
I think like because of in season 1 we had another kind of back-to-back challenge tribal that got a little bit out of hand, and so like not that we don't think it's a good thing to like allow them to just talk, but I think like in this specific case, this was like the time right after that other one, and we had talked after that other one about how like kind of maintaining at least a little bit of control, like so we were thinking about that specifically for this one, and I think we decided like they should answer the questions.
I think I tried not to be that pressing though. Like
no, you won't.
Yeah. I know that later on, and this isn't like a big spoiler at all, but like the next Whispering Tribals that we have in STC, I think if things started to kind of go in the direction that they did with the Will Tribal Council in season 1, we were hands off. It was like, go Whisper, go. You get 5 minutes to go. And I think either way works really. In this moment, it was, I don't know if me talking changed anything or whatever, but it was very, I didn't feel like I was intruding in it in any way. But yeah, I don't know.
And this challenge specifically, like we like as we went on like season 1 to season 2 to season 3, like we tried to like step it up as much as we could, like in various ways, and like challenges especially. Like this one particularly, we slotted in a specific place. Like yes, it was physical because they were running, but it wasn't really like, you know, physical. We did that because we wanted to have a very quick challenge that the rest of the crew could set up while they were making the banner, so that we wouldn't have to have like delays, delays that Greg didn't cause. But so that's where we put this one. But I will say that there are definitely a couple of interesting challenges season 2 post merge, and we really, I think you'll find we stepped it up in season 3. So that's something to look forward to.
I can see that in like 3 years.
Yeah, when it comes out, when it comes out as season 6 or whatever, whenever Greg finishes it. But
This
not,
like the season 4 people in the chat they're probably going to see their season, and then season 5, and then 3. That's probably how it's going to progress.
yes.
But yeah, okay. Last thing I wanted to ask, because I know, I mean, unless you had anything else, Aaron, but
not really, like just briefly, like from a production standpoint, like season 1 tribals were cool because of where we shot them, but they were very static. And watching Maryland, there, you had the different zooms on different people and everything, and I decided like, to try some new things. And like in the new area, we just wanted to make everything, like in events, challenges, tribals, everything that we had control over, just to be not static as possible. And I know, like, and I really like kind of told people like right at the episode 1 tribal, like right before it started, I was like, hey crew, we're gonna do like 7 new shots, like is that cool? And they were like, oh yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, we didn't really use it a lot in season 1 or in episode 1, but hopefully it makes things a little bit more interesting in the travels like after that. So
I'll also say apologies for me being so insistent to hold tribal where it is, because the sound there is awful. I'm sorry in advance.
Yeah, if you want some behind the scenes secrets, we probably even more time than we have, like that you actually spend at tribal council is the amount of time we had to pause tribal council for like buses and motorcycles and airplanes and things like that, like right next to a main street, like
yeah,
probably total of like hours that we had to stop and wait out.
But yeah, I don't know, behind the scenes stuff, pretty fun. There's a lot more to dive into in the merge, obviously, but yeah, I think we've covered most everything. Without explanation, I want to hear one more thing from you guys. Aaron, obviously, you can't really pitch in on this, but I want to hear your winner pick for season 2. Who is going to make it to the end? I mean, no spoilers here. It's a final 2 and a jury of 7. That's the only thing that 9 works with. So who is going to make it and who wins?
Hey, yo, let me get that Autumn. If she doesn't win, I'm quitting. No, she's great. I really do see her winning. She's had so much screen. If we're looking at edit, she has the second most confessionals, right after, of course, our King Greg. She's been shown to be very observant of people. I think she's had a great story. I think she's very fun to watch, and I would just be so happy. It would be a great bookend to the season if she were to win.
I mean, I would love to see Autumn win, but I feel like that's, I'm having too much of high hopes there. I mean, if, I have Stephanie also doing well, but just because she's with Autumn and I don't see her, I see them going deep, maybe taking Ryan and with them in the Final Four, but I feel like someone that would probably be winning is probably someone from the trio of girls that will always be voting together. I see Brooke probably sitting next to someone and maybe coming out on top. So my vote is Brooke. I'm taking a high chance here, but hopefully I'm right. If I am.
So I got Jake sweeping Allison in the finals. with Ryan losing the final 3 challenge after he won 3 challenges in a row.
Wow.
Got it.
I think Autumn's gonna get cut to short, and I'm gonna go with Jake because
Thief.
it's not thief. Do you want to see
Thief.
it written down?
Yeah, likely story. Stolen answer.
We all have pens.
Okay, Allison will be my backup if I'm not allowed to steal. She's gonna sweep Jake in the finals. Screw, take that.
Oh yeah, Rick, that got me.
All right. It's cool. All right. Well, we've kind of reached the end of the road here, but I'll give you guys the last chance just to wrap it up. Say whatever you want to say. Thank you guys for being here. This was a lot of fun. I know it's late for us East Coasters. For you guys out on the West Coast, it's like what, 7 p.m., 8 p.m.
It's 8:28.
Whatever. That's
Oh yeah, we're just getting started out here.
God, whatever. I need to go. I'm waking up in like 5 hours.
Here, let me do one thing. Yo, Survivor Season 7, Survivor Maryland Season 7, Major Conflict, coming soon.
How soon is soon?
Coming soon.
There's not even a point in saying that if you're just gonna say student.
All right, watch Survivor Maryland Season 6, New Beginnings on YouTube, the full season. It's great. Swally's
The only Survivor Maryland season you should watch. I wouldn't make it an appeal for any others.
okay, fuck you. I'm just trying to be my own cheerleader. Okay. I just want to share the love.
Okay. I just wanted to say that, as always, it is a pleasure to see Craig and Aaron and everybody else living out the College Survivor legacy. And 2 seasons in so far, reset, and season 2.5 coming next few weeks. But excited to see where it all goes. And I'm excited to see the Greg #2 era as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate that. Glad to have
Thanks for having
the
me, Greg.
experience.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to do this. My winner pick is Regan. # Team Regan. Shout out to George Jane.
I actually really
He
like
was
Regan.
voted out 3rd. That's how it works these days in Survivor.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It seems like
Is she the Chris Underwood of STC? I don't know. Stay tuned and watch the merge.
spoiler free recap. So you never know what's gonna happen.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. Swally, did you want to say anything? Or you didn't?
No, I will just be a co-cheerleader with Anders. Go watch, Survivor Maryland Season 6, New Beginnings, and that's all. And why not Season 5 and the ones before?
Yeah, season 5.
And
And season 2, if you want to see Ryan's clone. His name is Phil, and he's one of my best friends. They're literally clones.
Well, hopefully you guys go back and watch all that because you got some time. I will say, for those of you who are watching this, we are going on a little bit of a break from here. So Survivor Time and Change Season 2 is next episode will be July 29th. That is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And that's just because right now I started editing the finale today, so I need time. But that being said, we'll take a 2-week break. We'll resume then. Hopefully don't have to break again, but if we do, please stick with me. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys, all the panel here who came to talk about everything. I really appreciate you guys' thoughts, opinions, and everything. And yeah, go watch Survivor Maryland, and hopefully you're enjoying this season as well. So
Wait, I have one more shout out. Hey, Mom, thanks for watching.
You're canceled. Let's go.
Cancel.
on that note, good night.
Good night.